Hey y'all, it's your girl Barbie J here. Welcome to my channel, June BLC. Hey there everybody, it's your girl Barbie J here with the recap and review of Tyler Perry's comedy drama, Sisters, Season 8, Episode 16, Choose You. And honey, I choose me. I choose myself first all the time. Especially right now in 2025, I will always choose me first. And you should too. Anyway, before we get started with this recap and review, if you are new here or if you are returning and have not subscribed to my channel as of yet, please take a moment right now and hit that subscribe button. Then hit the notification bell and select all. It'll let you know every time I upload any new content to this channel. Then I ask that you smash that like button, which is the thumbs up button, write a comment and join the conversation, and then share because sharing is caring. Now, this episode starts off like last week, ended with Agent Watt, who is basically harassing Fatima and Zach in their home. He lets them know that he had a conversation with Gary, and he told him that Fatima threatened him 2 times, once with a knife to his throat and another time with a baseball bat at Hayden Moss's house. Y'all remember that when she tore up his house and everything? How is Gary remembering all of this? Come on, y'all. And then he added that Zach recently punched him in the face. One a punch well deserved. Anyway, Fatima told him they have nothing to say without the attorney present. And so Fatima asks his agent what else did Gary say? Because thus far what he said or shared with them wouldn't hold up on a string, let alone in a court. And Agent Watt is like, wow, look at you with your legalese and all this stuff. And so Agent Watt tries to mock her and everything. And he gets up in Zach's face too many times. I'm going to tell y'all right now. He is very aggressive, and that's not the way you're supposed to be. You really shouldn't be that way. But anyway, Agent Watt was really doing way too much. There was a lot of back and forth. He tried to get under Zach's skin by saying something about Michael and his baby mama, and you just got custody, and how, be terrible that you have to go back to jail, all this stuff. He really got on my nerves. I can't even talk about it, y'all. So anyway, Agent Watt said that Gary told him a woman stabbed him. And Zach is like, there was a lot of itches up in there. He said, yeah, but none of them gave Gary a volatile reaction except the picture of your lovely fiance or something like that, he said. And at one point, Zach made a mistake and said something like, I thought Gary had a problem with his memory. And Agent Watt got up in his face, talking like, you seem to know a lot about him. It was one thing he said. He didn't know a lot. He said one thing. But Fatima got up in his face like, don't say nothing. Don't let them know that we know anything, basically. She was giving Zach the look, and Zach's like, fine. But because Agent Watt was trying to put the blame on Fatima and stuff, Zach took him over to their suspect board and basically told him, if we were the ones responsible for stabbing him, why would we be wasting all this time with this board? And he's like, oh, look at here, a little sleuth, and what do you got here, and all of this stuff. He was being an a-hole. I'm sorry, y'all, but that's what he was being. And so long story short, Agent Watt told them that they got like 24 to 48 hours, something like that, to give them the name of a suspect, or else he's going to do his best to make sure he could blame everything on them or something like that, he said. And basically, I think one of them said they did as much work as he did without the resources that Agent Watt has. So let's be real, Agent Watt. What are you doing? You going around harassing people, and they sitting in the house with no evidence whatsoever, getting further along than he is. But when he left, Fatima got mad at Zach for saying anything to him and showing him the suspect board. And he was like, I'm sorry, but he was trying to put everything on you, and I didn't like it. She said, I had it. I was right there. You should have just let me do the talking and everything. He said, you're right, my bad, or something like that. Then she gets a text from Andy, which states she needs to meet with her at the penthouse. So she leaves Zach there and said, you finish up the board since you created this mess. He's like, oh, come on. I just didn't want him to blame it all on you. She said, well, he gonna try to do it still anyway. Agent Watt just want them to do the work that he ain't doing. That's the problem. Now we have a scene with Miss Marie. She's in Andy's penthouse and she is tired of Andy feeling sorry for herself. She reminds Andy that she gave all of her business to Benson, Jones, and Leland because of Andy Barnes. But Andy says that she is tired of fighting. And Miss Marie tells her black women must stand up and fight and make sure that our voices are heard. And Andy tells Miss Marie that she sounds like her friend Danny. She always makes her a voice heard or something like that. And she said, well, she sounds like a smart and strong woman. And Andy says she is. Then Andy mentions something about Gary and how he has messed up her whole life and stuff. And Miss Marie let her know that Gary didn't do it alone, that she was on that train with him, talking about Andy, and she allowed it to happen, basically. And Andy's like, I know you're right. My friends kept telling me that, and I wouldn't listen to them. They kept, and she was like, you know what? You're always talking about this hot mess of a friends you have. Where are they? Get them all here. She was like, what? She said, you want me to get them here? Yeah, get them here today. Call your friends and get them here today. And she was like, okay, Miss Marie. So next we have Danny and Tony. They get text messages or emails on their phones from HR saying they want to talk to them right away. Then he gets a text separately and says they want to meet him in his office. So Danny's like, oh my God, this is about our relationship. He's like, no, it's not. Don't worry about it. Da, 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 da. Just be calm. I don't want you to get yourself worked up and have another panic attack. And she's like, oh my God, you know. So they get in there and they meeting with this Miss Brown from HR. And she tells them that a complaint has been made, you know, concerning the nature of their relationship. So the HR rep calls Tony Mr. Royal. And Danny is like, who's Mr. Royal? And then he proceeds to start explaining who he was and which last name, why he has King and why he has that. And I'm looking at them like, why are y'all explaining all of this in front of the HR lady? I mean, clearly everything you're saying is making her know that y'all are in a relationship. And my other question is, why is Danny just now learning about this after y'all been dating for at least 4 months? You know, you want to know everything that's going on with Danny, but you didn't tell her that you had two different last names and that your real last name is Royal. This makes no sense. It's like you basically have a hidden identity or something. You know what I mean? Anyhow, the issue is about him getting Danny into that leadership program after the window was closed. And Miss Brown said they'll have to look into these allegations thoroughly. So she leaves, and Danny's looking at him like, all of this because you just had to get me into that leadership program. And he's swearing that he didn't play favoritism. She said you had to try to play favoritism. He said he didn't. He said, I believed in you and I thought you deserved to be in it. She said, well, because I'm your girl, I just caught a case from HR. And all he could do is just look at her. Okay, so now we have this scene with Maurice and Sabrina, and they're walking through the bank, and he's being all loud, asking her, "Well, what you gonna do? You gonna use the money's sperm or not?" You know, all loud, walking through the bank, and she's like, "Shh, you know, but well, you gotta tell me something. First of all, you're supposed to be behind the counter working and not worrying about Sabrina's sperm issue, okay?" It's just like, come on, she really needs to check Maurice, and she doesn't do it. So they go into, I don't know if that's the conference room or something. That must be a conference room because it's a big table and there's no door or something. And he's talking loud about her personal business. It just is not making sense. And then he's like, are you going to use Damani sperm or not? And then all of a sudden, Damani is there. And he comes to the bank to give Sabrina some good news about the article he wrote about her. But Maurice is leaving and he calls him Big D. You know, it's like, come on, stop. And he's like, Big D. Oh, yeah, that's a nickname for Damani, right? And he's like, yeah, whatever, Big D. You know, Maurice is being disrespectful. He's being unprofessional. And Sabrina says nothing to him. That wasn't even funny. It just was like uncalled for, if you ask me. So meanwhile, across town, we have Jordan and Penelope. They're in Rich's juice bar, and the three of them are sitting at a table together. Penelope mentions jail and possibly being the one who stabbed Gary, and Jordan gets upset and slams his hand down real loud on the table, which causes everyone to look that way. And Rich is like, yo, my man, you okay? He's like, I'm just tired of talking about Gary Borders. And Penelope's like, Well, that's all I can think about, these days. So Jordan is like, well, can we go like this one day at least without talking about him? She said, well, I'll try. And then her phone rings and it's Robin saying he wants to meet with her to discuss her case. So she gets up and leave. And now it's just Jordan and Rich there alone. And he asks Rich what's really going on. And Rich confesses that he's afraid that Sabrina will use Damani's sperm. And Jordan thinks he's overreacting. And Rich says, nah, man, I could tell by the way that dude looks at Sabrina that he wants to be more than a sperm donor. So Jordan suggests to Rich that he speaks with Sabrina in a calm manner to express his concerns. At first, Rich was saying no, but then changes his mind after more encouragement from Jordan. So he decides to go to the bank to talk with Sabrina, and he asks Jordan to watch his shop. And now, while all of this is going on, we have Miss Lisa showing up at Karen's house with her luggage, saying she got enough clothes now that if she needs her to stay for a long amount of time, she can. And so Karen is like, thanks, Mama. Then Karen wants to call the salon to check on Pam, but her mom stops her and say, look, you're supposed to rest. I will go and fix you some snack or something for lunch or whatever, and then I'll go to the salon and check on her. She says, that a deal? Karen says, fine, do that, Mama. So her mother fixes her the lunch or the snack or whatever, and then she heads out to the salon. While she's gone to the salon, Karen's phone rings and it's Andy. And Andy is asking her, would it be okay if she does a meeting via speakerphone? She said she needs to talk to her girls. And she said, oh, no, I'm coming. She said, no, because in your condition, you shouldn't be driving. She said, I will take a cab there. She said, I'm going stir crazy in this apartment. So she's like, okay, I'll see you there. So back over at Brookhaven Bank, we have Damani, I said, showing up with the good news for Sabrina, saying that corporate wants her to represent Brookhaven and Trust for the upcoming Finance and Trust Summit in Turks and Caicos. I said, oh, shooky now. And when he said that, you thinking Sabrina's going to be, oh, that's great. But she's sitting there about to cry, and you see a tear roll down, and Damani's asking her if she's okay. You can talk to me. We almost had a baby together. But, he was like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. That's too soon or something like that. But she finally admits what happened about the sperm not being viable and stuff. At first, he thought that Rich backed out. But when she explained everything, he said, oh, he must be upset. Y'all must be disappointed. And she's like, yeah. And he said, well, you can still use my sperm if you want to. He said, I'm just giving you options. She said, thank you. Thank you for offering. All of a sudden, Rich comes around the corner talking about, oh, really? And I'm thinking, here go Petty Betty Rich. He is so immature, and I don't know why Sabrina keeps taking him back. It's time to let him go, especially after he showed his behind at her job the way he did. So when Sabrina sees him, she's like, Rich, what are you doing here? He said, well, I came to talk, but I see you already called in reinforcement. And she said, no, it's not how it looks. I promise. And he's like, you know what, Sabrina? You full of ish. And I was like, no, he didn't. And he walked out and left, not even trying to hear her out or allowing her to explain. And he did that already before when they met at that restaurant. He saw her out to eat with Danny, and he jumped to conclusions there. So Sabrina need to let that brother go, because he keeps jumping to conclusion and he's wrong each time. And these are supposed to be these good brothers. That's what we were introduced to them, saying who they were. Man, please kill that noise. These three boys, and I'm calling them boys, they really need more growing and maturing to do. They all supposed to have been married before, and now they're not. And I'm seeing that it's them. It ain't the women, it's them, if you ask me. Anyway, Damani jumps up and said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cause any trouble. And Sabrina said, it's not your fault, don't worry. So now Maurice comes over and he's being nosy because he sees what went down. And Sabrina said, wait a minute. Andy just texted me and she needs the sister circle ASAP. She said, I gotta run. I trust you. Watch the bank. I said, you's a fool if you trust Maurice watching the bank. He's like, what am I, assistant manager now? I'm like, you was assistant fool. Anyway, now we have Miss Lisa showing up to the hair salon, and she opens the I'm sorry, y'all. She opens Karen's office door and catches Pam and Trey having sex on Karen's desk. And she's like, what the hell is going on in here, Pam? She tells Trey to get the hell out, and Pam is on the desk. Oh, Miss Lisa, I'm so sorry. Please don't tell Karen. She said, Karen trusted you, Pam. What are you doing? This is the one time she trusts you. She needs you, and you take advantage like this. And she said, no, it just like we was just trying to spice up our life. She said, I'm sorry. And this is the first time, and it never happened again. And she was like, I'm not going to stress my daughter. But if you ever do any mess like this again, Pam, and she's like, I won't happen again. She said, clean this ish up and walked out. Then talking about, oh, that boy was kind of cute. Talking about Trey. So now we see Robin and Penelope. They're out at a restaurant, and he lets her know that he got her confession thrown out. However, she's not out of the woods yet. And then he also suggested that she talks to a therapist to help her, clear her head after the trauma she had with the loss of her baby. She's like, I didn't lose my baby. Gary murdered it. And he said, oh, I'm sorry. He said, I didn't try to minimize it. I'm not trying to minimize it. And she said, you know what? No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be directing my anger at you. But you directed it at Andy. Talking about he's one of the few people who tried to help her. No, Andy's one of the few people who tried to help you, but you didn't mind directing your anger at her. So when he said that Gary's good at manipulating the women that he targets, she was like, oh, you talking about Andy? Then she's like, well, what happened between y'all? First of all, it's none of your damn business. And you owe Andy an apology. You know what I mean? I'm like, why do you care about Andy's personal business so you can run back and tell your brother? I hope Robin doesn't tell her anything of any concrete information because it's none her business. And that's that. And now the episode ends with one of my favorite parts, which was with the Sister Circle round table at the penthouse with Miss Marie. And first we had Sabrina and Karen arrive to the penthouse, and Karen was like, oh, Miss Marie. And she was like, we're going to get that business plan to you right away. And Miss Marie's like, tick tock, Karen, tick tock. And then Sabrina's all excited, talking about, oh, I know who you are, blah, blah, blah. I've got all your records and then your article about this. And she said, well, you made a pretty good name for yourself. I'm on the board at Brookhaven and Trust, and I read that article about you and stuff, and you seem to be climbing the ladder or something, she said. And then we have Danny and Fatima arrive to the penthouse, and Danny's coming in there dancing, doing something hoochie coochie or something. And then Andy goes, it's Miss Marie. And Fatima's like, oh, I didn't know you were going to be here, Miss Marie. So anyway, they come in and sit down. They never introduce her to Miss Marie, meaning Danny. And Danny's like, who this Harpo? Who this? I was laughing. And Miss Marie is like, I summoned you. She said, excuse me? She said, you excused? Or something like that. So anyway, they got off to that type of start. And then she went into this whole sister sticking together type talk or something. And she went through each one of them. And it shows that Andy was telling all their damn business. Who are you to tell their business, Andy, when your life is a hot mess yourself? And so she said stuff about Karen. She said stuff about Sabrina. And I'm going to do a separate video on it. I'm not going to go into it now, but I'm going to give my 2 cents on the things that Miss Marie said. Then she went to Fatima, who basically was saying, with all due respect, Miss Marie, why should we take love advice from you when you done had 4 divorces? I was laughing. I was like, oh, no, she did. And then Miss Marie with the comeback, because I've already made all the mistakes for you. They're like, oh, okay, cool. And when she got to Danny said, before you rip my ticket, let me just say, it's not above me to whoop your ass. I was like, oh no. She said, well, I'll beat a couple of asses in my lifetime too, or whatever it was. And I just fell out laughing. But anyway, she gave a lot of good advice. But the fact still remains, Andy was telling all of their business. So Miss Marie said this was good for her too. She hoped she was able to help them. And she gets up and she's about to leave. And she says to Andy, if you are not back on top at Benson, Jones, and Leland within 1 week, she will take her business elsewhere, and then she will put the word out across the world that Andy Barnes, Esquire, is a pitiful little wimp who rolls over at the first sign of trouble. I said, oh, all the sisters are looking at her like, and Andy's face dropped. I said, yeah, you were okay when she was tearing everybody else apart and snapping your fingers and stuff. But when she put it on you, you ain't know what to say or do with yourself. I did have a quick question, y'all. All of them walked in, but nobody seemed to walk around gallon of ice cream that should have been on the floor. I was wondering who finally picked it up. Was it Andy? And did she mop the floor and clean it up? Anyway, y'all let me know down in the comment section what y'all thought about this episode. I thought it was pretty good, especially this last part. So before you turn off this video, please do not forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. And I will see you all in the next video. It's your girl, Barbie J, saying peace.